Hey guys, it's me, Wanda, the solo traveler, and this is my official review of the 10-day Norwegian Breakaway Mediterranean cruise leaving from Rome, Italy, or Civitavecchia, Italy. So before I get started, I want to acknowledge my fellow comrades. Today is Memorial Day. My fellow comrades who are serving and those that have served in our armed forces, and especially for those that have given the ultimate sacrifice so that we can appreciate the freedoms that we enjoy and sometimes take for granted in this country. Okay, now that I've gotten that out the way, let's talk about that cruise. So I did the May 6th to the May 16th, 2023 cruise, leaving from Civitavecchia, Italy. Number one, embarkation. Embarkation from that port was much different than any other embarkation process that I've been a part of. Now, most of my cruises, I will say, have been from U.S. ports. However, I have cruised the Mediterranean before and have cruised out of other ports from Italy. Normally, whenever I pull up to a port, whether it's a USA port or any other port that I've cruised out of, right? As soon as we get to the pier, there is someone there to grab your bags. The porters are there. This is where they make their tip money. They grab your bags, make sure they're tagged, take it, and you won't see your bags again until, after you're on the ship and maybe been to the buffet and, get to your room later on that evening. That's not how this worked. We were dropped off by we took a private car because we were staying in Rome a few days, and the car dropped us off, at the cruise terminal. But there was lines of people and everyone had their luggage. Whatever luggage you packed, whatever you packed is what you had to roll with you or carry with you. So it wasn't so much that the line was long, it was the fact that you had your own bulky luggage because there was nobody there to take your luggage, and you had to have that luggage with you, carry that luggage with you throughout the line, out in until you got to inside the building. And even then in the building, they didn't take your luggage right away. There was no one there to grab your luggage. So just be prepared. Now, because I cruise a lot, I don't pack very heavy. I've kind of learned my lesson, over the years. So I had a large suitcase and then I had a carry-on. But there were people in that line that had 3 and 4 pieces of luggage, and they're trying to wheel that luggage around those bars, or how they set the rings up, or they set the ropes up. Let me just tell you, people were not happy that they had to maneuver their luggage to get into the terminal. And then when they got in the building, they felt like, okay, wow, I'll be able to get rid of my luggage. No. It was still a ways before you could get your luggage. The line did move fairly steadily, but it was just a lot. And we were all looking for someone to come and relieve us of our bags, which didn't happen until, you struggle with that bag for a while. So just be aware of that for this port. And I don't know if that was just that particular time, but that was the process that we dealt with. However, once we did get inside, all the way inside, that was the other thing. Nobody asked about passports or anything until we were well inside the cruise terminal, which I'm used to them asking before you can even get into the building. But again, we're in a different country. And since I did bring up the fact that we are in international waters, that was another issue that came up on the cruise. All of the ports we visited Greece. We left from Italy, visited Greece, Italy, and France. So we are in international waters. And the reason that I'm stressing this is being in international waters, we have to abide by the international laws, which are much different from what they are in the US. Most of this voyage, the casino was not open. So if you are a player and you enjoy the casino and you're going on this voyage, understand that there are going to be a lot of times, there may be a lot of times that you won't be able to enjoy the casino. And I'm not just talking about when we're at port, I'm talking about at sea, because they have certain laws for those countries that did not allow the casinos to be open. Now, there were people that were upset about that, because some people, that's what they do when they go on the cruise, but no bueno. The same thing with alcohol. There was a limited amount of alcohol that could be sold on this voyage because of international laws. Now, those people who had the drink package seemed to be able to get certain drinks, but those that didn't, like I had a friend who wanted to get a virgin daiquiri or something while we were at sea and one of the days, and they just flat out said no, they were not able to do any type of transaction if you didn't already have a drink package. And then for those that did have packages, there were limited amount of alcohol that you could, or drinks that you could purchase. So be aware of that. We're in a different country under a different set of rules and laws, and I'm not sure if it was just a NCL, a Norwegian thing, or if this is throughout the fleet. From what I've been reading, it seems like this is something with Norwegian. So just so that you are aware of that as well. So the ship layout, the Breakaway is a smaller ship, or I guess a medium-sized ship. What I do like about the ship, and this is my first time on the Breakaway, is I liked how the atrium, because I always spend a lot of time in the atrium when I cruise. I do a lot of solo cruising, so I like to be around wherever the action is and meet people. That's where I meet a lot of people, and enjoy the shows and the music. I like the way their atrium, on the 7th floor, there's a bar where you can order food and drinks, and it looks down over where the stage is and where a lot of the activities take place. So speaking of the fact that I travel solo, and I am a solo traveler, this was the first time though that I booked a solo cabin, a studio. Probably my last time. It was a nice enough room. It was small, but it's just me. Had plenty of storage, but I'm used to my balcony, and I did miss it. It does force you out of your room. I like the fact that they have a wing just for studios, and you can only access it if you have a key that allows you into the studio area. There's a lounge for solos as well, and the lounge has pastries and drinks and things like that, but that lounge is really underutilized. I appreciate that's one thing I do like about Norwegian, is that they have hosted solo meetups every day, and there was a lot of solos on this cruise, and we had a lot of fun. I didn't think that there was enough activities. It just seemed like they've made a lot of cuts. Well, I know they have. Everybody's made cuts, right? The economy has forced many industries to make cuts, so I understand that, but you could really feel the limited musical venues that were available, or the shows. It just wasn't there. But the 2 shows that they did have, the 2 Broadway shows that they had, almost made up for the lack of shows throughout the ship. Burn the Floor was a good show. The music was good, the choreography, the dancing, the plot, everything was great about the show. But I tell you what, 6 took it to a whole nother level. 6 was so good that after I saw it, I wanted to see it again, and I wound up going back and seeing it the next night. You do have to make reservations for the shows because they will sell out, though you're not paying for it, but they fill up, I guess I should say. It's already part of the package. If, though, you try to make reservations and you can't, it tells you that it's full or it's sold out, never fear, especially if you're traveling solo, right? Never fear. There's always one seat for a solo. You can go to the ticket office, which is on the 7th floor. They can help you out. Or you can there's usually a waiting list that opens up 10 minutes prior to the show, and inevitably there are people that don't show up, that will book the show and they don't show up. So you can always make it to the show, but if you miss everything else on the cruise, treat yourself. Go see Six. Go see Burn the Floor and go see Six. Those really are the only two shows that they had. They had a couple others, but those are the two that you want to make sure you see. Oh, and speaking of shows, I forgot to mention this. There were no comedy shows on board. Anybody that knows me knows I love to laugh. One of the things I loved about Carnival, and I haven't done a Carnival cruise in quite a while, is the fact that they bring on the fun and the funny. They have a comedy club on their ships, and I'm all for good, fun comedy. They have a comedy club on this Breakaway, but there were no comedians. They 86'd all the comedy events because they did not want to be offensive. I guess there were problems in the past and people were offended. You know, right now we're in a time where, you know, everybody, you got to watch what you say, how you say, who you say it to. So they just don't have comedians on board, and I thought that was a big miss. But I was, you know, kind of bummed about the fact that there were no comedians on board. Like, make me laugh, okay? As far as the dining options, plenty of dining on the ship, plenty of complimentary dining as well as specialty dining. The food is okay. My favorite was O'Shea's. It's on the 7th floor. I like them because it's like a pub on the ship, and it's right around the atrium area, so you can actually order food and see what's going on right there at the atrium. And specialty dinings were okay. My favorite was the Brazilian steakhouse. We did several of them, but yeah, they were good. Specialty dining was good. Regular dining, okay. Buffet, okay. But definitely a lot of dining options. I tell you, the other one that was really good was Shanghai. That's a complimentary dining option. And with one of the things that I do like that they do, if you go into, and you don't have to make reservations to the complimentary dining venue. Two that fills up the quickest are those that are not in the dining room, the dining room areas. They're just kind of open air, so they fill up quickly. But I like the fact that they give you those beepers, and you can kind of roam around the floor, and they beep you when they're ready. You can enjoy a show while you're waiting to be seated for the ports of call. This was a very port-intensive cruise. I love that about it. We went to, I want to say we only had one sea day. I meant to double check there, but I think we only had one sea day, and everything else we did have another one, only because it was not scheduled, but because of the wind, we were not able to dock in Malta. But very port intensive. So you want to make sure that you got your running shoes on and that you're ready. Having said that, the two ports that required a tender was Santorini and Cannes. And Santorini especially was a bit of a hiccup trying to get off of the ship. So if you have a excursion plan that is not an NCL excursion, you want to make sure you give yourself plenty of time to get off the ship, because you have to make reservations for the tender. Again, though, if you make reservations and you don't have a tender number that's appropriate, or you're trying to get off earlier, you can always go to the ticket office, not the guest services, but the ticket office or the box office that is located on the 7th floor, kind of hidden away, tucked away on the ship, and ask to have your tender ticket upgraded. The lines getting back on the ship can be a bit hectic, so be aware. These ports that we're going to, they're small ports, small towns, and they're accommodating so many passengers. And getting back on the ship is not as simple as just the ship's security. You also have, again, we're in another country, they have their own process where they are, they have their security gates or their security process before you can even be checked into the cruise's security gates. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is, most of the ports, or many of the ports, require you to take some form of transportation away from the port area in order to enjoy the excursions. Those rides can be anywhere from an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, even just to get there. So of course, if it takes that long to get there, and then of course it's going to take that long to get back, you have a limited time to really appreciate the port itself or the areas themselves. Anyway, I think that might be it for my review of the Norwegian Breakaway Mediterranean cruise. I would definitely say go do it, but just be aware of those things that I pointed out. Have a good time. Italy is a beautiful, and Greece, just a beautiful place. All the ports were just better than the last. Take plenty of pictures, and just pack your patience, because you're gonna need it. That's it for me, guys. Have a magnificent Memorial Day, and until next time, happy cruising. Toodles!